Hello, salam, shalom, namaste, sat sri akal, aloha, hola, ciao, and bonjour. It's really, really good to be back with you. And I have another very special guest with me today. And it's Jacqueline Kane, who is a master energy healer. And I'm so happy you're here with us today, Jacqueline. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here too.
Yes, and I will have you jump right in and tell us more about who you are and what you do.
Thank you. So I am a master energy healer and I guide women to uncover their hidden energetic and karmic blocks that keep them in physical, emotional, financial pain. I use my uncover the root cause process to unravel negative thoughts and clear limitations. So I believe that every human being right now is not really living their authentic lives because we are carrying the energy of our ancestors, and that sets us up to have certain ailments, certain energetic blocks. We've been conditioned a certain way. And when we have awareness around that, then we can decide, okay, which pattern do I want to hold on to and which one do I want to let go of?
Yeah.
Ways to
Can,
let it go.
yeah. Can you give an example of what holding on to this kind of ancestral energy could look like in
Yeah.
terms of my experience of it in my life and body today?
Yeah. So first, ancestral energy is the unresolved emotional issues of our ancestors that's been passed down. So I find that it impacts our ability to live a pain-free, energized life. It impacts our wealth, ability to create wealth and income, our ability to have deep connected relationships, and our ability to stand in our power. So for example, if we look at the health, um, you know those families who say arthritis runs in our family, that's just the way it is, or our family has low back problems or heart conditions, that's just the way it is. That's a sign that an emotion has been passed down and it's stored in the physical body.
Mm,
And over generations of not clearing it, that that energy can get worse from one generation to the next,
mm,
right? And I think that's why we have uh, so many people coming up with rare diseases,
yeah.
unknown, can't figure it out,
Yeah.
right? If the doctor can't figure it out, that's really good because it hasn't set into the physical body yet,
Huh.
right?
Yeah.
But when they can't find something or they don't understand it, it's an energy problem.
Mhm.
But if you go to a doctor, you're trying to get a diagnosis. And some people will go from one doctor to the next trying to find a diagnosis,
Yes.
right?
Yes. I have,
Would you rather be healed or would you rather have a diagnosis?
right. I mean, that's I think one of the big issues in the way medicine gets practiced in the West, that there's so much emphasis on diagnosis, and the diagnosis also is really focusing on sort of finding the name you can give the thing and how it's functioning at the biological level in terms of what kind of chemical imbalance you have or hormonal imbalance you have, or is something visibly broken, that you can see in an x-ray or ultrasound or, something like that. But it doesn't truly get to the root cause of why you have that damage in the first place, assuming you can even find any physical evidence of it through these kinds of mechanisms of blood tests and x-rays and things like that. And so often, even when you get a disease of that sort identified by name, they're like, oh yeah, we don't actually know why it's existing in your body. We just know that it is. And
Mhm.
we can't really cure it. We don't really have a cure for it, but we can help you manage symptoms or some of the symptoms.
Yes. And even like pain management. I have a lot of clients who come in with physical pain,
Mm,
and one woman said to me, well, Jacqueline, I know you do pain management. I'm like, no, I don't like the word pain management.
mm,
Whoever came up with the word pain management is not about managing your pain. I help people get out of pain. There is a way to heal the physical pain so that you don't feel it. So many of my clients can say, oh my God, I didn't have that low back pain for 7 weeks after a session, or I had my first pain-free day, right?
yeah.
We don't have to manage our pain when you understand energy, when you understand the emotions. And that's what's missing in our healthcare system. They don't talk about energy. They don't talk about your emotions, your feelings.
Yeah.
It's the emotions. And it's a lot of that suppressed emotions,
Oh,
right, that comes out as physical pain with the people, with women like fibromyalgia, autoimmune, arthritis.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Those women, a lot of them give and do for everybody, and they're depleted energetically.
mm,
And so their body is depleted.
yeah.
And when you understand that, then you use tools and techniques. Okay, how do you build your energy up,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And how do you start speaking up, and how do you start saying no
Yeah.
when you're tired and you can't do one more thing, right? As women, we are so good at overdoing it, and we're so good at taking care of family and friends, but we're not always good at taking care of the most important person, and that's you.
Hey, thanks for tuning into this episode. Hope you're getting value out of it. For your information, this episode has been sponsored by the Happiness 101 program. Are you a change maker, coach, trainer, or healer? Are chains of fear holding you back from making the impact and income you desire? Using a unique combination of positive psychology and the spiritual wisdom of our most effective change makers, the Happiness 101 program helps you break through your limiting beliefs and manifest the abundance and success you desire with fun and ease. Interested? Book a free Happiness 101 exploration call with me, your happiness expert, Samia Bano. Just use my online calendar link in the show notes. Now, back to the show. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I oftentimes think about in my culture, and right now by my culture, I'm talking about like my Indian, Pakistani, Asian culture. That's where my family is from in terms of our ethnic background. We have this teaching or this expectation of when things are working in the most amazing ideal way that we want them to work in our culture, what happens is that I spend all of my time and energy taking care of you and other people in my life that I love and care about. But then you and other people in my life spend their time and energy taking care of me. And so it sort
Mhm.
of balances out. Like you take care of
Yes.
me, I take care of you. And in fact, this is actually seen as one of the ways of how healthy relationships work. that I don't think too much about me, but you think lots about me and vice versa. But the fact of the matter is that this is an ideal and it's rarely actuality.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's tough.
And I meditate sometimes and do yoga retreats with um, people from India. And they do, well, from what I've seen, they do honor the women's cycle a lot more than we do in the States. And one of my friends had mentioned in tribal communities, there was a lot more support. There
Mm,
was a lot more of everybody helping that child and helping the woman, when she needed it. And we don't have that anymore. At least in the States, we don't have that. I don't know how it is in other countries, but I know in the States, the women have been taught to, get pregnant, drop that baby, get back to work.
yeah, that's really super tough. And especially when we're talking about like ancestral trauma and how that impacts our life, it's sort of like you create this cycle where, generationally this pattern gets repeated where, the women, they're having children, but they're not able to stay as present as even they want with their children because they don't have the necessary support. They have to go out and work. Um, and so there's a certain amount of neglect that the children experience and the trauma that comes or the harm that gets done, you know, to the child because of that absence of their parents or, other adults in their life. How many kids are being brought up by the TV, and that kind of thing. And then just that pattern if it keeps repeating, you know, I mean, you're just stuck.
How do we stop it? Right. And I think that's what we're seeing in this generation of Asperger's and autism. These kids are very highly aware and sensitive and empathic, and they have gifts that they can teach us. But when we throw them into a chaotic society, public schools where there's not enough support for the teacher and it's basically just managing all these kids, it's really tough for these kids. And I know with my own son, because I have two kids, and when my younger son was young, he was on that borderline of autism and Asperger's, but I never wanted to label him. So I never gave him that label. And I just did natural things to help him function, to be successful. Because as moms, we want all our kids to be successful. Um, and so now you wouldn't even know it because he's in college and he's done very well. But he taught me that he just wanted me to be present to him, even 5 minutes a day, and it would calm him down to know that somebody cared, somebody mattered. Because if they're together, remember, if these kids are empathic and we put them into a school system with 20 other kids in a classroom, and even more at high school level and middle school, it's overwhelming to these kids. It's so overwhelming. So I had to learn that when he came home, he needed downtime. It's about just learning, what do you need energetically and how can you create an environment that is supportive to you and your family.
Yeah, that is such an excellent point. And man, I can keep giving examples from my own life and experience of people suffering from physical disease and pain, but really the root cause of it was a mental, emotional, unresolved issue or trauma. And once, you work on healing that trauma, that unresolved mental, emotional issue, that's when you begin to experience the relief. I mean, I've had that happen certainly in my life, and so many other people in my family and friend circles and clients that I work with. So I guess I'm feeling like we have a good understanding, or we've talked quite a bit now about the root cause of the problem. And so what can we begin to do about it? Like, what are some bits of wisdom that you have to share with us on how we can begin to help ourselves?
Yeah. So first we have to have awareness. If you look at your areas, look at your health, is it where you want it to be? Are
Yeah.
you living with a
Mm,
health condition and you haven't found a solution? How does it make you feel? Like
right.
really get in touch, get in your body. So many times we're in our heads because we don't want to feel. So when you get into your body, how does it make you feel? And when you think of that emotion, who else in your family carried that emotion? And are you carrying it for that family member? Right? So awareness is the first step. Maybe you don't have pain, but you have a lot of emotional stuff. Again, who's carrying that? If we look at your finances, who else in your family um, had money problems, right? And debt, and maybe they tried to have a business and they went bankrupt, or just something happened, or money was stolen. Is that a pattern that's been passed down? So looking at your patterns, look at what happens when you go after your dreams. Is it easy? Do you achieve your results and your goals that you desire easily and effortlessly? Or are you sabotaging them? And what comes up because it's not comfortable? Where we want to go is not comfortable, right? So what is it? For me recently, there was my mother was raised in Sardinia, Italy during World War II. She was a child. Her father was away fighting the war, and her mother was home on a tiny island in a tiny village, taking care of her children with German soldiers walking around. So, when I see everything that's happening in the world, I'm like, this is what my grandmother must have experienced, right? So that's a lot of fear to suppress. And if I have a belief that nothing will change, where did that belief come from,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yes.
When my mother was going through her health issues, I take her to the doctor, and every time I bring her, she'd say, there's nothing they can do. Nothing they can do. She'd repeat this over and over again. It was so ingrained in her, right? But that's what she's experienced. And for her, that's truth.
Mhm.
But that truth is in me,
Yeah.
in my children. It'll be in my grandchildren. It'll be in everybody going forward. So I've got to clear that. So first it's awareness. Oh my gosh, that's what I believe about this situation.
Yeah.
I hear my mother saying that all the time. First step is awareness. And then what are your tools to heal that,
Yes.
right? And that could be a wide range of
Mm.
things to do.
Indeed. And I'm so like happy that you mentioned awareness as the first step, because I know I have been through like a lot of programs that are aimed at improving our mental health, and sort of in my case, because I was like so focused on learning how to be happy.
Mhm.
Uh, and oftentimes what I found was that the programs would start with something like, okay, let's begin to work on our mindset in terms of how can you create a more empowered mindset, a more positive mindset, right? And I'm like, okay. And that definitely helps. And it's definitely, I think, a necessary step in the process of how we heal and grow at a mental, emotional level. But if that's the first step that you are sort of jumping into, I think you leave a lot of things that have to be taken care of, and you haven't taken care of them because you haven't worked on the awareness piece first.
Yes. I use the joke, you know, if I put lipstick on a pig, it's still a pig, right?
Right.
I can't, and being the happiness coach for you, you know, that's sometimes so hard to be happy.
Mm,
There's so many things in front of that, especially right now. There's so many other things that people could stop themselves and make excuses for why it's so hard to be
yeah,
happy.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I also really appreciated what you just were sharing about how noticing if you're experiencing ease, because experiencing ease is not just a goal to strive for, but actually it's also an indication. It's feedback from
Mm.
the universe, from your own inner self, that you are on the right track. And if you're
Yes.
not experiencing ease, that's feedback that there's somewhere that you've gone off track, and you need to figure out where that is, and take corrective action.
Yes. And not ease can show up when you're actually making progress. It
Mm,
can show up when you're frustrated,
yeah.
or it can show up when you are making huge progress and you're scared because you're really going to achieve success,
Yes. Oh, that's true.
right?
That is so true. And sometimes that's when I find, like, for example, when you're actually achieving success and then the fear crops up, like that was like, for me, it really threw me off. I was like, what in the world is going on here? Because I used to hear people talk about the fear of success, and I was like, I don't believe it. Why would anyone be afraid of success? It doesn't make any sense until I experienced it. Really threw me off.
Yeah. Yeah. All this stuff doesn't make sense logically. It absolutely doesn't make sense logically. But even, the inner saboteur, the inner critic, they show up when to protect us on some level, but they're protecting us from the behavior of a child,
Ah,
how old they are, right?
mm,
So it's about up leveling all of these inner voices
yeah, yeah.
and living our lives with the enlightened voices that are inside of us, but we don't spend much time with them.
So can you put that in the context of the example of someone for whom this fear of success has just cropped up? What does that child's voice sound like? And then what would the enlightened voice sound like?
Oh, that's great. So, well, the saboteur voice would be, okay, so say you have a business and somebody came along and said, oh my gosh, let's do this. Let's collaborate on this, and we can do all of these things and impact so many more people. But I could be saying, I don't trust you. There's something wrong with you. My skeptic can show up and say, nope, I'm not going to do it. So it could actually find something wrong with something that could really be impactful. Even if we look at our health, um, I say to people, I've had clients who are able to get out of pain that they've had for 17 years. When I'm talking to a prospective client, they could say, well, that's impossible. It's physical, Jacqueline. How does that work? You can't help me, right? So that's that part of themselves believing and not trusting me and not being open to try something new. So it's kind of like a temperature gauge. In the temperature in your house, you set it at a certain temperature. And then when the temperature goes down, it kicks in. Well, we have our own inner temperature gauge. It's about our level of comfort. So we are comfortable at a certain way of living, a certain level of success, a certain income level. So, and a certain way to feel in our body, to believe that I am powerful and I can actually heal myself. So when you push against that, and it's energetic, right? It's subconscious. This isn't something you see. It's a subconscious programming. Things show up to distract you when you're actually making progress.
Man, thank you for sharing that. And you just made me think about one of the things I was learning. There's actually research on when you are unhappy, how other people relate and respond to you. So, there's lots of surveys that have been done where, the researchers will ask a question like, okay, how happy are you? How happy are you? And, various times. And on average, the vast, vast majority of people falls like on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being completely miserable and unhappy and 10 being extremely amazingly happy. Most people will fall somewhere between 6 to 8 on the scale. So they're not depressed. They're somewhat happy, but there's room to grow.
Yeah.
And what happens is that research shows that if you fall below the 6 to 8 threshold on the happiness scale, and the other people around you are on that 6 to 8 threshold or part of the scale, because most people are, they will actually do whatever they can, whatever they know, to try and help you
Mm-hmm.
and pull you back up. So you are very likely to receive good support to get you back up to that 6 to 8 part of the happiness scale range. But if you begin to go beyond 8, you start to live in the 8 to 10 part of the scale of how happy you are, other people actually start to have negative reactions towards you, where they begin to look at you. They're like, you've got your head in the sand, you're being unrealistic, why are you so happy? Why are you smiling? What's the reason? Like they begin to question your happiness and why you're happy, and it just doesn't feel real to them. And they think
Mm.
there's something wrong
Yes.
with you because you're so happy. And then their behavior actually, even though they don't mean to hurt you or make you unhappy or harm you, but their behavior sort of shifts and changes in a way that, unless you're very careful about it, your happiness levels begin to drop until you get back in that 6 to 8
Mm.
range where everyone's used to and comfortable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you must see this a lot then in your business, huh?
Yeah, I do. And this was
Yeah.
actually something that my happiness coach like literally warned me about when I was training with her to become a happiness coach myself, where she was like, this is a real thing. Like, this is a real thing. And she also talked about how, as you keep practicing growing in your own happiness, you will actually become so happy, so peaceful. People for sure think you're crazy if you actually express all of that outwardly all the time. And so you have to actually learn to sort of uh, be appropriate in your behavior for, so you don't bring yourself down at an inner actual mental emotional level, but you have to learn to sort of tone down your behavior to make it socially appropriate, because otherwise, you're just always ending up in a situation where other people are getting frustrated and disturbed and irritated and just, being like, what's wrong with her?
Yep.
And yeah, yeah. And because there's something missing inside of themselves and they don't like to feel that, you know? Yeah,
Yeah. Well, most people don't feel okay.
yeah.
So you're pointing out more of them not feeling okay
Yeah,
without without doing anything, just being yourself.
right.
I do find that when we clear the energy, because I've experienced that, um, and I find that the more energy clearings I do, like that shifts,
Yeah,
because when that happens, it's still a part of you
right.
not feeling safe to be you,
Mm.
and that's not fair.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah,
That's true. And I think that's the other thing, right? That behind the, like we talk a lot about the comfort zone, but really underlying our wanting to stay in the comfort zone is really our need to feel safe.
yeah,
Mm,
yeah. And I mean, if you go on Facebook, it'll prove that over and over again, right? Somebody puts on their, oh, poor me post, send me love, and it will have 1,000 comments, right? Compared to somebody who goes out there and says, oh my God, I'm feeling awesome. And I can help you too. Crickets, right? Most of the world feels is not okay. They don't feel okay, and not everybody's ready to shift that or
mm.
to look at themselves.
Yeah. And there's also just those trust issues. Like even if you see someone or hear someone saying, hey, I'm doing amazingly and I can help you, are you able to trust that?
Yeah.
Because there's also, unfortunately, a lot of people who are just putting up fake fronts. So,
Yes. And that's a big issue too. A lot
yeah,
of people have have gotten burned or bought
mhm,
programs and they didn't get the results,
yeah,
that there wasn't any depth to it. So uh, yeah, there's a lot of that too. Used car salesmen, I call them, of selling things that they can't really produce the product.
yeah.
It makes it hard for people who really can.
So what do we do in that situation?
Well, it's about testimonials. Sometimes
Uh,
it's better, not that I say I can help them. We'll go talk to this person or read this
mm,
testimonial or read this one. Check out the video testimonials, all people, the results people have had. Don't go on what I say.
yeah,
And and the work I do also, and probably you too, is about helping people start trusting themselves,
yeah,
trusting your own inner guidance.
mhm,
Because believe it or not, we are powerful.
yes,
You have the power to heal yourself. You have the power to change your situation. You
yes,
have the power to create amazing relationships, love, happiness, right?
yes. And in this context, we also have the power to be able to tell the difference between who is truly trustworthy and who is not. Like our heart can connect with their energy and sense
Mm-hmm.
their energy and know whether that energy matches ours or not, how positive or negative it is, how high or low it is in its vibration, you know. So um, yeah. Okay, can you give us like one tip or one bit of wisdom for how we can begin to increase our self-trust?
Oh, yes. Hmm. Well, sometimes there's muscle testing you can do. A lot of times it's really getting out of the head, right?
Mm,
Get down in the body. So I usually tell people to take 3 deep breaths and
mm,
bring that breath all the way down your body into your toes. Like feel your feet on the floor or in your shoes. And when you've done that, like throughout the day, feel my feet, get in my body. What am I feeling?
mm.
And trust your gut. If you're having a conversation and there's something icky going on in your stomach, like, I can't trust this,
Yeah.
you trust that with all your heart. Compare it to having a conversation with a friend that you do trust and that you get excited about, and maybe you're inspired and you do things. That's the energy of alignment.
Mm,
That's the creative energy.
yes.
So decide and focus in on which energy are you feeling when you're with certain people in your life.
Yes. And you just made me think about the fact also that sometimes the person is trustworthy and good and what they're suggesting is totally fine from their perspective, for their situation, for their context, but it just may not be the right thing for you. And so sometimes if you are feeling a little dissonance or you get that gut feeling of no, I don't want to follow this person or do what they're asking me to do, it may not be an issue of that person being wrong or untrustworthy. It may just be that the particular path that they're recommending is not the right path for you.
Yeah, and it may not be right in this moment.
Yeah.
May not be right today. Maybe it'll be right next month or a year from now.
Mm.
But you ask those questions, keep asking those questions, and then tune into what's the answer that you get in your body.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So on that amazing note, that amazing bit of wisdom sharing from you, I think we will begin to wrap up for today. Do you have any last words or thoughts that you would like to share with us?
Just that everybody has the ability to heal. Those people who do it take action. So wherever you are in life, there is have faith and trust and hope that it is possible to shift and that you are powerful, you are worthy.
I'm so 100% with you on that, Jacqueline. And thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and these amazing um, ideas with us. And for you, our listener, please make sure you click on the show notes after we're done in just a few seconds because we are going to be sharing Jacqueline's links and my links so that you can connect with us whenever you're ready for it and whenever you want some help and support. So just go ahead and go click on those show notes. And until we connect next time, I just wish you lots and lots of peace and joy.